Jive talking, trash talking, all kinds of talking going on these days, and nobody really seems to listen. Conversations aren't meaningful. Well, we're going to look at how we can all make them more meaningful and get rid of some of the jive talk and the trash talk on this episode of Survivor Angels.
It's time for Survivor Angels, an approach to strengthen trauma survivors. Here, you can escape what draws negativity and engage your positive abilities and the gifts that you've always had. Let's activate your angels. And to help you on that journey, here's Chaplain Jodi.
You ever walked away from a conversation feeling completely energized? I mean, you're just boosted, like the other person just got you. They understood you. Or on the flip side, if you left a conversation where you felt kind of icky, kind of drained and unheard and probably even a little frustrated. Not uncommon these days. That feeling isn't random. There's actually a science behind why some conversations flow oh so effortlessly and why others just simply seem to fall flat on their face. Well, in this episode, I'll be sharing some lesser-known insights and solutions to common conversation challenges and some techniques that can transform the way you connect with others. We'll also talk about how trash talking serves no real purposes. It damages relationships and shows a lack of emotional intelligence, and ultimately creates more harm than good. But don't worry. I'll also give you some tips on how to turn negativity into a more productive dialogue. And of course, I'll show you how and where you've got some extra support readily available, aka your angels. So get comfortable and let's talk. What does make a conversation truly successful? Well, we've heard all the basics. Listen more, talk less, be respectful. Those three things just simply go without saying. But we're going to go deeper. You ready? What actually makes a conversation feel fulfilling for both sides who are in the conversation? Well, neuroscientists have found that during meaningful conversations, our brains release oxytocin. I had to stop and think about that. There's too many oxy words out there. Oxytocin. It's the same bonding hormone that strengthens trust in relationships. The more connected and engaged we feel in a conversation, the more our brains literally reward us for it. Talk about a boost in our brain, right? It's better than any drug. It's naturally produced hormone, okay? That's why some people can walk into a room and instantly make you feel comfortable, while others, even if they're saying all the right things, all the right words, somehow it still just feels a little off. Here's something else. It's called the 5-to-1 ratio. Researchers, including Dr. John Gottman, have found that for every one negative, critical, or hurtful comment in a conversation, we need 5 positive ones to keep the interaction feeling balanced and productive. In other words, keeping it on a positive level and not veering off into that darkness of negativity. All conversations are personal, and they're personal because they're coming from our minds and our hearts. And sometimes that gets out of balance too. That doesn't mean we have to sugarcoat everything. Oh, for Pete's sakes, no, or be overly cheerful all the time. That's not what this is about. But it does mean that the energy that we bring to the conversations directly shapes the dynamic of the conversation, and in turn affects the energy. And then there's something called the third thing rule. Classy title, isn't it? Have you ever noticed that the best conversations often revolve around a shared interest or a common goal? And we see that so much these days. It's like the tribes are just sticking with their tribes, right? There's no coming together to share anything. It's because when we focus on something outside of just me and you, it creates a sense of collaboration rather than confrontation. So, in other words, it's about the foundation of a conversation. That's where we get to. Not all the nuances, not all the opinions, none of that. Now, Archangel Gabriel loves to guide you in your conversations. So make sure that you tap into his messages because he's always talking to you. You just have to pay attention. Then, think about one of those conversations that you've had, the kind that left you feeling really connected with warm fuzzies. Not that it was necessarily where everyone agreed, but just that the conversation went well. What was different about it? As an ordained pastor and a former military chaplain, I've had many conversations involving religion, as you can imagine, both with parishioners and the general public and my fellow clergy people. While attending advanced military chaplain school with chaplains from all over the country, all faith walks, provided me some of the most enlightening conversations that I've ever had. I was actually really surprised. I was actually really impressed. And I will still talk about those times. We were Protestant and Muslim and Catholic and Jewish and other faith backgrounds as well, yet openly and respectfully. Together we discussed the nuances and the differences between our respective faiths, while staying true to our own belief systems. And we learned why those differences existed, which gave us a newfound respect for each other. Well, there are some common conversation challenges and solutions. We know what makes a conversation feel good. We've just talked about that. But what about the things that hold us back? Because let's be real, we all run into conversation roadblocks. So first I want to talk about the wait to talk problem. And you know the feeling. You're in a conversation, and instead of truly listening, you're just waiting for your turn to jump in. You're really not listening. You're not paying attention. Don't do that. It's not a great fix. Then there's the last word technique. Before responding, repeat or summarize the last few words the other person said. You still should have been listening to all of it. But it forces you to stay present, and it makes the other person feel truly heard. This is one thing that we're taught as counselors, as pastors and chaplains, and other counselors and therapists use this as well. It's a very common thing to do. And we get to conversation anxiety. Yup, been there, done that. Everybody has. Some of you probably still do. Well, believe it or not, even the most professional, confident speakers experience this. You know, it's where you walk into a social situation and you're thinking, what if I say something wrong? Or what if I sound really awkward and weird? You know? Well, a great fix for this is the yes and technique. And believe it or not, it comes from improv comedy, and it works wonders in real life. SNL is celebrating its 50th year. We've had 50 years to learn from the cast and the writers of SNL. And how it works like this is, instead of shutting down a topic or feeling stuck, you've seen where they all of a sudden go, and they're like, oops, either went off script or they're improvising and they sort of lost the train of thought, the focus they were going for. Instead, simply acknowledge what was just said, which they do, and then add something to it, which they do. And it keeps the conversation open and flowing. Go back and watch some of the old SNL skits. It really is a master class in this technique. What about one-sided conversations? Oh boy, either you feel like you're talking too much or the other person is dominating the discussion. It's like there's no 50-50. Well, there shouldn't be 50-50, really. The good rule of thumb is the 40-60 rule. And that's where you try to speak about 40% of the time and listen 60% of the time. And that means truly listening. Remember, you have to do that without letting your brain think about how you're going to respond. You're going to have a response. Your brain, your intelligence, your brain is going to give you a response without formulating it the whole time that the other person is talking. And if someone is really dominating, we know who they are. They just love to hear themselves talk. That's basically the bottom line. And or they're afraid of what you're going to respond back with, okay? Gently redirect by asking an open-ended question that shifts the focus. Let me give you an example. Now, I haven't had this situation in a few years, but my kids and the grandkids are sort of coming into all of this. Your teenager wants you to extend their curfew. Sound familiar? And they are adamant. Their argument is, well, everybody else's parents are letting their kids do it, right? Well, ask them an open-ended question, such as, why do you think that there's laws for curfews in certain situations? And sometimes it's in communities just as a rule. Then ask them if mom and dad's reasons conflict with that. It shows them the why, first of all, and it also shows them that mom and dad are in line with a common goal that's really been in existence for a very long time, for good reason. Several years ago, I had to dismiss an employee for failure to perform at the required level. For 2 years, I did everything I could think of to help improve his performance. He was a really nice guy. That wasn't the issue. He was a great guy. We met weekly. We tried different strategies. I tried the open-ended, direct question, like I was just telling you about with the teenagers, to find out what might be going on for him to give me the answer to. But ultimately, it just wasn't working. And it was tough. And because I used several of these conversation techniques, things actually remained amicable. We were able to work together. In the end, granted, he wasn't happy, but we dismissed him. But through it all, we were able to work professionally. And then we come down to trash talking, which is a very common response these days, given the different societies and cultures which all seem to funnel into that darkness. It's harmful. It can destroy a conversation before it even begins. It's easy to fall into, especially because of our culture, where venting frustrations publicly is really common, aka the social media. It's like we've got an audience just sitting there waiting for us, and then we've got everybody who will agree with us, which doesn't help the situation. But here's the truth. Trash talking serves no good purpose. It lowers the energy from positive to negative for you and everyone around you. It damages relationships. It creates unnecessary negativity. It shows a lack of maturity and emotional intelligence, according to the mental health professionals. And bottom line, it damages you and your integrity. If you're the one trash talking, ask yourself, what do I really hope to accomplish? To just vent what's bothering me, or to come up with a solution? Because if you're trash talking and complaining without even thinking about a solution, woe to you. Mentally this is not healthy for you. If you're on the receiving end, try redirecting the conversation. Here's kind of an easy way to do it. Instead of agreeing, say something like, I see where you're coming from. Have you tried looking at it this way? Again, counselors and mental health professionals use this a lot. Back up what you're going to say, then with concrete facts and or information. And if someone is being especially toxic, and they're out there, narcissists in particular will never back down. They're not able to. It's okay to say, I really want to focus on solutions rather than problems. And then walk away from the conversation and walk away from the person for your mental health. Archangel Michael is great at helping you hold your ground in these situations. Just call on him in light and love for strength and encouragement when you're faced with this negativity. He's there 24/7. I'm going to change up here a little bit. Ask you, did you know that there's a power in storytelling and conversations? How's that for a 90 or a 180 or something here? Storytelling teaches us about conversation because it mirrors the natural flow of human connection. It's engaging, it's relatable, and it's emotionally driven. A good story, it captures attention, it builds anticipation, and it creates a shared experience. Just like in conversation, storytelling relies on pacing, tone, and emotional cues to keep an audience engaged. Most importantly, though, storytelling encourages active listening. There's that listening piece again. We don't listen enough. We don't shut up enough. When we become invested in the narrative, we naturally tune in. And we ask questions, and we respond with curiosity. Our imagination gets amped up. These are all skills that translate directly into meaningful conversations. Well, let's talk about some lesser known conversation techniques, some more advanced conversation techniques that most people don't use, but can completely change the game. First up, conversational mirroring. That's a tough word to say. This is a trick that's actually used by FBI negotiators to build instant rapport. It's simple. Subtly match the tone, pace, and even the body language of the person you're speaking with. If they're speaking softly and slowly, adjust your tone slightly to match. Don't be obvious about it. If they're more energetic, lean into that energy. This creates an unconscious sense of connection. Everybody wants to connect. We all want to be connected. Another technique is the power of the pause. I love the pause. I love silence. I thrive on silence. It is the most protective growth space that there is. Most of us feel the need to fill silence immediately, and I used to be like that. But pausing for just 2 to 3 seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003, before responding, makes you seem more thoughtful and engaged, and it encourages the other person to elaborate. Harvard Business School found that this is actually a key tactic in effective negotiations. People naturally want to fill silences, so a well-placed pause can lead to deeper conversations. You got to stop and think for just a second, because you don't like that silence. Somebody doesn't like that silence. And then there's the name use effect. Research shows that using someone's name in conversation increases engagement and trust. Here we are back to that trust factor again. That's how we get to meaningful conversations, is to keep intact the trust or to build the trust. But using a person's name in a conversation should be done very sparingly. Saying someone's name once or twice in exchange makes them feel recognized. But if you're just about every other sentence going, hey John, hey Judy, hey Bob, hey whoever, you come up as manipulative. And everybody picks up on it right away. Then they think you're gaslighting them or something. So next time you're talking to someone, try dropping their name naturally into the conversation. And just pay attention how it shifts the energy. At the end of the day, the real purpose of conversation, the goal of a great conversation, isn't just to exchange words or thoughts or opinions. It's to exchange energy. Positive, not negative. Negative interactions close the door on future discussions, and nothing gets done. Nothing changes, nothing grows. And so we are all here just spinning our wheels. Instead, we need to focus on working together, communicating with each other with respect, with open ears, actually listening. Whether it's a relationship issue, a family dilemma, or a shared goal for the greater good. We need to use the conversation legacy mindset. Before you speak, ask yourself this: how do I want this person to feel when we're done talking? And it better not be that you want to browbeat them because they look at life differently than you. It's all opinion without fact. But did you encourage them? Did you inspire them? Do they feel heard when you allowed them to respond? Are they positively challenged? To challenge people positively. Wow, I'm almost done and I couldn't get it out. To challenge them positively, I'm going to stop saying it, is a way for both of you to grow. And remember, the ripple effect is real. One uplifting conversation can create a whole chain reaction of positivity that extends far beyond people involved. I've seen this action in the paranormal community, just to call out one community, if you will. Negativity and ego clashes have been known to dominate, but when shifted towards positivity and encouragement, the entire dynamic changed. That's the ripple effect. Don't step in to the darkness. Don't take the bait. Take the high road. Redirect in a positive way. So here's my challenge for you. In your next conversation, try just one of these techniques. Go back, listen again, write down the one that you think you might be most comfortable with. Maybe it's mirroring, pausing, shifting the mindset before you speak. And then pay attention to what changes. I'd love to hear how it goes, so please leave me a comment here or email me through my website, which is chaplainjodi.me. Spell out chaplain, and Jodi is with an I, so chaplainjodi.me. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who could use a conversational boost. That they're either always getting beat up or they're always trying to beat somebody else up. We're all out there together. Until next time, keep shining and keep the conversations flowing positively, respectfully, and with purpose. Solutions. And activate your angels.
Thanks again for joining Chaplain Jodi on Survivor Angels. For more information, go to chaplainjodi.me. That's chaplainjodi.me. And on Facebook at Survivor Angels-Chaplain Jodi. This is Dave Schrader. Until next time, sending you off to activate your angels.